Do you want to become a more successful property investor? Well, today's show is just for you. I haven't got a guest this week. I'm going to have a chat, just me and you, about how to become a more successful investor by discussing two separate concepts with you. We're going to have a talk about, are all those property investors out there crazy? You know, the ones who don't get success. And I'm also going to share with you one thing you're going to have to change to become more successful. So today we're not going to talk about hotspots and the next property wave and interest rates or auction clearance results. We're going to talk about the psychology of success. And if you've been with me in my podcast, my blogs, my YouTube videos, you know that that's my area of expertise, and it's what I think is going to make the biggest difference in your success. So welcome to today's show.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment, and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect, and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now, here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's authority in wealth creation through property, who has been voted one of Australia's top 50 most influential thought leaders.
Apparently, around 8.6 million Australians bought a lottery or a scratchy ticket in the last year. That's almost 45% of our population of people over 18. Who's buying all these tickets? I mean, when you do the maths, they must be crazy. The odds of winning the major lottery like Powerball or Mega Millions is around 1 in 176 million. But the fact is, no one's crazy. They may be misinformed. They may have incomplete information. They may be bad at maths. They can be persuaded by clever marketing. They can have no idea what they're doing. They can misjudge the consequences of their action. Boy, can they misjudge the consequences of their actions. But the decision to buy a scratchy, a lottery ticket, or an off-the-plan apartment, or a house and land package, or whatever makes sense to them in that moment, and ticks all the boxes they need to check, it makes sense to them at the time. So every decision everyone makes is rationalised in their head when they make it. Now, I've often written about, and I've spoken in these podcasts, how we're not rational when we're making investment decisions. We are subject to behavioural biases, shortcuts that our mind takes. Now, I've been a student of behavioural finance for many, many years, trying to understand why investors keep making the mistakes they keep making. When they end results of their actions, the negative consequences of the decisions they make, look, they seem so obvious to me. And I eventually came to realise that the cornerstone of behavioural finance is that most people assume it's a field whose documented flaws apply to other people, but not to themselves. In other words, that's not going to happen to me. Clearly, it's easier to recognise other people's mistakes than your own. That's because we judge others based solely on their actions. But when judging ourselves, we've got this internal dialogue in our head that rationalises what others identify as bad decisions. We rarely hear the internal justification other people have for their mistakes. But boy, we're keenly aware of our own, aren't we? Virtually everyone reading my blogs, listening to my podcasts, I believe they've got above average education. They've got good incomes. They've got asset and career advancement opportunities. So it's hard for many of us to intuitively grasp the subconscious reasoning of those in the lower income earning capacity, the lower quartile of income earners, those who purchase most lottery tickets. But you can imagine their thinking goes something like this. Oh, look, I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. I just can't save. There's nothing left over. I can't see my wage increasing any time soon. I can't afford to have nice vacations like the other people are. I can't afford a new car. I can't afford proper health insurance. Boy, I can't even afford to buy my own home. So buying a lottery ticket is the only time in their life when they can hold a tangible dream of getting good stuff that others, you and me, already take for granted. So that's why they buy lottery tickets. That's why they buy more lottery tickets than the average Australian. Now, interestingly, that was my father's financial plan. I clearly remember him sitting at the kitchen table, drinking his black coffee, smoking his cigarette every Saturday morning, doing sums on a piece of paper. When I asked him, what are you doing? He said he was working out what he was going to spend his lottery winnings on. By the way, he never actually won the lottery, but he won a little prizes so he could keep buying lottery tickets. Anyway, you don't have to agree with the reasoning. These people still making bad financial decisions, but you can sort of understand why they do it. A lot of decisions are statistically wrong, but intuitively right for the person making them. So I believe the lottery is a tax for people who can't do maths. So I have never bought a lottery ticket. I used to, when we were allowed to, went to the casino, Crown Casino in Melbourne, not because of gambling. We never gambled there, but we went to the nice restaurants. We went for the entertainment. But it interestingly happens the same with property, where investors, I see, make decisions that seem so wrong to me. And all the blogs, the statistics, the podcasts say, don't do it, it's wrong, you're not going to be successful. And yet they do it. So why do so many property investors still buy in secondary locations, in regional locations, buy off the plan when the odds of investment success with them are so poor? The easy answer is because they're irrational, because they're greedy. And while that's true, most investors probably rationalised what they're doing in ways that weren't crazy to them, even if they turned out to be absolutely wrong. Same with those who bought house and land packages in the outer suburbs where there's no scarcity and where the local demographics are unlikely to be able to afford to pay higher prices in the future, meaning capital growth is going to be minimal, and where income growth is going to lag averages, so the areas aren't ever going to improve or gentrify. Now, you don't have to think any of these decisions were right. You certainly don't have to consider them smart, because most weren't, but they probably made sense to the people who made them at the time based on the reasoning that they had their internal narrative in their heads. So as I'm trying to get across to you in this chat today, people are often wrong, but few are crazy. So two things come from this thought. First of all, be careful taking cues from other people when you've got no idea what they're thinking. Many finance and investment decisions are rooted in watching what other people are doing and either copying them or betting against them. But when you don't know why somebody behaves like they do, you won't know how long they're going to continue to act that way, what's going to make them change their mind, or whether they're ever going to learn their lessons. So each property cycle entices a new generation of unsuspecting investors to make decisions they're going to regret. The strong growth that this particular property cycle has already had has encouraged new investors to come into the market, and that's great. The problem is they can't see their way of getting into the great locations. They can't see their way of getting into locations that have already performed strongly, so they're making secondary wrong decisions, which are sensible in their mind because it's the only decision they can make. So some of them are buying off the plan properties in the hope that over time the property is going to increase in value and they're going to make something out of it. Hey, it doesn't work that way. They're enticed by promises of easy gain, quick profits, or ways to beat the odds. I'll get you around the banks. You're seeing these emails. You're probably getting them as well. That's what's currently happening as we've experienced this strong growth in our property markets. And despite all the concerns about COVID, the media keeps reminding us how the value of properties around Australia, how much they're rising every week. I recently read a headline that said, well, something along the lines of your house is earning more than you are at present. So currently FOMO, the fear of missing out, is encouraging people to make poor decisions. Some are taking shortcuts. They're buying secondary properties, while others are so worried they're going to miss out on the future capital growth. As I said, they're buying off the plan because that's all they can afford at the moment, hoping that the growth will occur by the time they settle, and this is something going to solve their problems. But they find that the valuations, when they settle, you've heard this discussion before, the valuations never come in for what they paid for it, so they have more financial problems. So as our property cycle moves on, we're going to see a new group of, let's call them spruikers, telling people that they're going to share their secrets of property success with them. Some will even share their secrets for free because they're being paid by the property developer whose product they're selling. Others are going to charge a fee, but they're going to deliver tainted advice because in reality, the enthusiastic amateurs. Boy, I'm seeing a lot of those at the moment. So be careful whose advice you follow is the first lesson I want to give you today. Remember, the team at Metropole, my team at Metropole, have been involved in well over $4.5 billion worth of property transactions, and we've been around for decades. So whether you're a beginner or a seasoned investor, if you're looking for independent advice, why not have a chat with my team at Metropole? Just go to metropole.com.au and find out about how we can help you. And it all starts by putting a plan together for you. So you're going to make your investment decisions based on a strategy, based on a plan, not based on false assumptions. So as I was starting to say, there are two lessons I'd like you to take from this chat. Be careful who you take advice from. And the other one is, no one is crazy, including you. But everyone justifies actions based on poor reasoning, including you. Few people make financial decisions based purely on logic or by using research and spreadsheets. They make them at the dinner table, over a barbecue, over discussion with friends. They get advice from Facebook groups, from internet, from forums where there are well-meaning amateurs there who really aren't qualified to give you advice. Be careful who you listen to. Then there's the perceived incentives that people get that influence their decisions. Things like tax benefits, depreciation, discounts, bargains. Looking at these from the outside, these people can look crazy to others, but they weave together a narrative that works for these investors. So the bottom line of my chat with you at the moment is to understand how your mind plays tricks on you. The fun part I find of behavioural finance is learning about how flawed other people can be. The hardest part I've found about behavioural finance is to figure out how flawed you are, I am, and what stories make sense to you would seem crazy to other people. That's why making significant property decisions, investment decisions of any sort, it's really important to have a team of independent, unbiased people on your side, somebody as a sounding board, somebody to help you. They're going to steer you in the right direction. They're going to see your blind spots. See, we all want to think we're rational, and these biases are things that afflict other people, not us. However, our brains are designed with blind spots, and they're clever ones. They trick us to make us comfortable in the delusion that we don't have any biases at all. That's why so many of us are not only bad with money, but we tend to make the same mistakes over and over again. We're blind to our blindness. And that's why, if you want to become a successful property investor, you need a team around you. And in my mind, a holistic team. So not just a buyer's agent who's going to fulfill the idea that you already have in your mind, or not just a mortgage broker who's going to get you the right finance, or an estate agent or a property marketer who's going to sell you something that won't be a successful investment in the long term. And as I said before, if you'd like the independent advice from a holistic team, go to metropole.com.au, find out a bit about how we can help you. And it all starts by putting a plan together, and then we'll help you implement that plan using our buyer's agents, property renovations, property development, wealth advisory, financial planning. Go to metropole.com.au, and I'd love to be part of your ongoing wealth creation journey. I'd like to have a chat about one thing most property investors, and probably you, are going to need to change to become a more successful property investor. I found that for most property investors to change their level of wealth, they personally must change. Now, rather than disagree, please humour me for a moment and listen on, because this has come from many, many years of working with both successful and not so successful investors. You see, sometimes we love change, and sometimes we hate it. In fact, some of us love to change, and others fear it. So why is change so difficult for many of us? And that's because change makes us move out of our comfort zones. It takes courage to leave something they're familiar with and to try something new. One of the jobs of our subconscious mind is survival, to protect us. So it likes to keep us in the same preferred safety and security locations and ways of doing things and ways of thinking over the untested and the unproven. Haven't we all heard people say, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know? So we tend to believe that if we stick with what we know, with what's familiar, then we won't get hurt. But the problem is in terms of wealth creation, it's not what you know that's holding you back. It's not what most investors know or don't know that's holding them back. It's what they think they know that isn't so that's holding them back. Now, I know you're used to listening to my thoughts on property and property investment and money and success in this podcast. For a moment, though, I'd like to share with you something different, my thoughts on wealth creation, which is, it's really why you're in property in the first place anyway, isn't it? In fact, I'd like to discuss why so many Australians are not as far advanced with their wealth creation as they'd like to be. They're not as successful as they'd like to be, haven't developed the financial freedom they deserve, yet they continue to do the same thing over and over again, hoping somehow things will be different. Think about it. If you keep doing the things you've always done, you're going to keep getting the results you've always got. Now, I'm not belittling the success that you may already have in property, but I remember not that long ago, I was in a room of 100 successful business people, entrepreneurs and investors at Wealth Retreat, and one of the questions I asked them right at the beginning is, why aren't you wealthier than you are now? Why aren't you richer than you are now? And it had many of them stumped. And when we worked through why, it was because all successful people still have limiting beliefs. They still have their own wealth operating system, their mindset set at a particular level, and they can go further. And interestingly, conducting a number of exercises and doing special things, at the end of Wealth Retreat, they came out with a much turned up thermostat, financial thermostat. Their wealth operating system was much bigger and they've got some huge goals. Now, I can't go through all that with you here now, but I'm just pointing out that this is a challenge that everybody has got. And there was only one person in that room who came to me and said, Michael, I don't have any limiting beliefs. Of course, that's not true. That was one of his limiting beliefs. But as I said, if you think you're going to move on without changing, it's not going to happen. So if what you've been looking for was where you've been looking, chances are you already have it. Doing more of the same even harder and longer isn't usually the answer. Being willing to change will usually create better results. So the thing is, you can have more because you can become more. So what holds most of us back? Well, as I explained a minute ago, it's what I call your wealth operating system, your financial blueprint, the programming we receive as a child. Now, as initially described by Wallace Wattles in his book Science of Getting Rich, I think it was a century ago, and more recently by T. Harv Ekers in his great book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which is a must-read for all property investors, they both said something like, your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions determine your results. So it's no coincidence that your inner world creates your outer world. The programming you received, usually as a child, that leads to your thoughts, to your fears, to your limitations about wealth creation today. So one of the first steps in change is changing your thoughts. So how do you think about money, about success, about prosperity? What do you say to yourself? What's that little voice in your head saying? For many of us, our thoughts revolve around fear or scarcity or limitation. The problem is what you focus on expands. If you think about fear, scarcity and limitation, what do you achieve? Remember what I said a moment ago. Your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. So therefore, money is a result. Wealth is a result. Your health is a result. Your results in all fields have been caused by you, by your action. They occur in your outer world, but are determined by your thoughts and feelings, your inner world. So for many Australians, their current mindset just won't let them get to the next level. It's not what they know that prevents them from succeeding, as I said a moment ago. It's what they think is so that isn't correct that's their greatest obstacle. It's the way that they think that's their greatest barrier. It's because their programming, as I said, their wealth operating system, the way they were programmed by things they heard, the things they saw, the things they experienced when they were a child. This is the type of thermostat that was set usually when you're a child and gives each of us our feelings about money and wealth. The problem is, for most Australians, their thermostat isn't set for wealth. And it hasn't been changed. Those thoughts and feelings that you saw as a child were made with childhood consciousness and experience, and it's not relevant today. Many of us need to intentionally change our inner world, our way of thinking. We need to start thinking about prosperity, about abundance, and about success to enable us to attract those very things. First of all, we need to change the way we think about ourselves. We need to see ourselves as a wealthy person, as a wealth attractor, as a wealth creator. This means you need to change some of those ingrained thinking patterns that are probably going on in your head to overcome some of the negative ways of thinking that have developed from the result of past experiences. That's what you're going to have to do as well. But as I said a while ago, we're scared. Why are we scared of change? Why do we find it hard to change our way of thinking when change is natural? In fact, the only constant in the world, the only thing that absolutely count on is change itself. Well, I guess, and also death, isn't it? But it's often because our subconscious mind, as I said, it's programmed to protect us, to stop us changing. Yet most successful people all share one critical characteristic, the trait of adaptability. They embrace change. They look for opportunities to expand and learn. Another common characteristic of successful property investors, of successful people in all ilks, is that they've got a mentor. And they belong to a mastermind group, and they hang out with like-minded successful people. Because if you continue to do things that you've always done, you're going to continue to get the results you've always achieved. If you want to move forward in your wealth creation, you're going to have to change. I believe it was Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results. So results change when people change their way of thinking. Now, if anything I've said to you today has made an impression, you'll realise that if you're going to get to another place financially, then you're going to have to do some things differently. And doing things differently requires different thinking, first of all. If you change your thinking, you'll change your actions. If you change your actions, you'll change your results. I'm going around in circles, aren't I? But there's a reason for that, because the investors I've seen stuck in the same financial position just didn't understand the importance of what I've shared with you today. However, as I've already explained, you can have more. You can, because you can become more. You see, here's the other way the coin flips. Unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you've got. All that property stuff I share with you each week on the podcast, it's powerful, but on its own it won't do it. In order to have more, you need to become more. The rich keep getting richer because they're programmed, they're conditioned to, while most people are boxed in by the boundaries of their thoughts. So as I've said, wealth's a result. It's a result of your thoughts and your beliefs, which lead to your actions. It's important for you to understand that. It's important to understand that we're all fully responsible for our financial results. If things aren't working out the way you want to at the moment, you need to stop taking the easy way, and you need to stop blaming outside factors. It's not your boss's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not the fact that interest rates are moving up. It's not the lack of information. You need to stop justifying why you're not financially successful. Most of what you've got today, you're attracted by becoming the person that you already are today. If you want to change your life financially, I keep saying it, you must change first. Everything you're doing right now, you're in the habit of doing, and everything you're not doing right now, you're also in the habit of not doing. You've heard me speak on the psychology of success before. You know, I suggest that you always get what your subconscious mind wants, not what you think you want. So if you want more wealth, sure, keep listening to this podcast. Listen to the Mindset Moments. Get mentors. Get a mastermind group. Maybe you should join my mentorship program. I've been running that for about 17 years now. I haven't actually promoted it a lot because it takes up time, and I spend a lot of one-on-one time with the people in my mentorship program. I haven't raised the cost of it, I think, for 15 years. But you could go to michaelyardney.com.au and find out about the mentorship program. I'll leave you a link in the show notes. Or get my team at Metropole to help you and hold you accountable. So one of the things we do when you become a client of Metropole, sure, we help you develop financial freedom, but we fix problems because some people have bought the wrong properties or just done the wrong things because they're bought emotionally. We help prevent problems, and we also help get you better results by foreseeing problems and challenges by challenging the way you're thinking, not just about property, but about money. No, we're not psychology coaches, but my team understand what makes successful investors more successful. And an element of it is the money and the research and the properties, but it's also the way of thinking. And having somebody who thinks the way successful investors do, because our property strategists are already very successful in their own rights, will help bring you around to thinking in the way successful investors do. So while I normally say, have a chat with my team and help them build a strategic property plan, go to metropole.com.au and find out how we can help you, that's all part of it. But having a good team of people around you will help you think differently about yourself and about money. And maybe some of the lessons I've just shown you, talked to you about today, will help you get to the place you want to go. So work on yourself harder than you work on your job. Have a chat with my team at Metropole. Go to metropole.com.au. And I look forward to being part of your wealth creation journey and helping you change, helping you move out of your comfort zone. Well, as I said at the beginning, today's show is a bit different and more about you and the psychology of success. And if you got some benefit from my chat with you today, why not tell somebody else who you think would benefit as well? I love seeing how the subscribers and the downloads to this podcast keep going up and up. We're continuously ranked amongst the top business podcasts. And over the last few months, our subscribers and our downloads have gone up by about 20%. So I appreciate you telling others about this. Let's make it our quest together to make more Australians as financially successful as possible. Now, I'll be back again real soon, but you can catch me on social media. And if you want to get something from me each day, just a little tip, a trick, go to our private Facebook group, go to Facebook and click on the Property Update Facebook group. And I'd like to share some information with you that I don't share elsewhere. I'll be back again real soon. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favorite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael, but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?